So today I'm inside of the Proving Ground strike outside of Watcher's Grave, and I'm wanting to do a little bit of explanation as to how to do like sparrow flying, so that people have ways to navigate the game space better, and it should help being able to follow along with some of my other videos. For this, you're going to need a larger area with preferably a pretty high ceiling. I recommend somewhere without a box entirely if you know how to get into one of those. That's why I'm here specifically. You're also going to need the ability to summon sparrows. I guess that's not technically necessary, but it would be a lot easier if you're not trying to drag a sparrow into a different load to learn. Now I'm going to be doing this on Titan with Catapult Lift because it's definitely the easiest, though it can technically be done on any class. There's just some different trickery that you have to do to be able to actually get your jumps back mid-flight if you're resummoning mid-flight. Anyways, the first thing you're going to want to do is jump up as high into the air as your jump will allow you to go. Pull out your ghost and summon immediately. That should look something like that. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is jump up as high as you can into the air, turn on destabilizers, and tap to the side. And just a little tap is all it takes. And you should fall down and land pretty much upside down on your sparrow when you hit the ground. The next step after that is figuring out how to time your dodges when you're doing a flight, as well as maintaining your rotation. So I'm actually going to show a clip of me doing a flight, and I'm going to pause at key spots throughout it to show off what's going through my head while I'm doing the flight, and which directions I'm dodging. Now the first dodge I'm going to do is going to be to the right, and I usually do this first dodge before my sparrow's even completely summoned. Now after this first dodge, I'm going to give a little tap to the left to swing my sparrow around through the rest of the rotation, that way my other wing is up in the air by the time I need to do my second dodge. Now for the second dodge, I'm going to dodge left to try and continue to move myself away from the ground. Now after this dodge, I'll have had enough rotational momentum that I won't actually need to turn on the destabilizers before my third dodge. I'm just going to let the sparrow swing around naturally. Now on the fourth rep I go back to dodging right again, back and forth trying to continue to dodge in the opposite direction from the ground, moving myself upwards. Now to let the rest of this play out, this is what it should look like in full speed, and that is a completed single set of a sparrow fly. The next step after this is to chain a whole bunch of them together into a much longer, farther distance flight. Now after you've completed your first full set, you immediately want to jump off your sparrow, turn on your jump jets, and then immediately summon again to begin a second set, or a third or a fourth until you get enough summons together in a chain to get to where it is that you want to go. And that looks something like this. And you'll notice when I do that, I actually change the direction I'm looking before I summon. And the reason for that is if you're rotating to the left, no matter what direction it is that you're facing, you're always going to move to the right of yourself. And so, set after set, I'm moving ever so slightly to the right, and I'm moving quite a bit upwards. And depending on when you time your dodges, that will change how much upwards movement you get, if any, and how much horizontal movement you get. Now let's talk about sparrow flying on classes where you don't actually have something like Catapult Lift that allows you to just maintain your height midair and get your jump back every time you get off your sparrow. Now the goal here is to actually have the sparrow kick you off so that you land on top of it and you're able to actually jump off of it. This is what you'll see a lot of hunter players doing when they're doing sparrow flies, is positioning themselves in such a way where the sparrow boots them off and they land back on top of it. And that should usually get them their jumps back. Now what I'm doing here is I am jumping up and summoning my sparrow, and then tapping to the side for an even shorter period of time than I normally would if I were to go into like a normal sparrow fly. And then immediately after that, I'm dodging to the right twice. So first dodge at a very steep angle, and then the second dodge is immediately vertically. And what will happen is the sparrow will kick me off and I'll land on top of that. And you can chain multiple of these together to be able to gain infinite height on any class. Now, I'm not skilled enough to do this, but on classes like Warlock or Hunter, you could Shatter Skate or Well Skate off of the sparrow to get horizontal distance. I've seen several players do this. And then you can also do this trick while Sparrow flying normally, just to end your reps and summon again, but I'm not skilled enough to do that. Next we're going to move on to infinite flying, a much more accurate, much more difficult version of Sparrow flying. For that, you're going to need a Sparrow. Anyways, to start off, what you're going to do is perform a normal set for a Sparrow fly, but at the end of it, instead of jumping off, you're going to just let your Sparrow rotate around a full rotation. And you're going to want to hit about this angle by the time your boost bar gets completely full. Usually I measure it somewhere in the ballpark of around 45 degrees from the bottom of my screen, measuring the line between the tips of the wings on my Sparrow. From Sparrow to Sparrow, you're going to have to find different lineups, but that's the angle you want. After your first dodge, the second dodge's location is just as important. You want that one to be a dodge straight vertically. The purpose of this is the first two dodges join together to cancel out any downwards momentum you have, setting up the next two dodges to be used to go in whatever direction it is that you actually want to move with this flight. After you finish your next two dodges going in whatever direction you want, you stop using dodges and finish your rotation to let your boost recharge, doing it in 4 dodges at a time. Every time you finish your 4th dodge, you slow your rotation speed to let yourself finish a full loop before getting back into that about 45-degree angle and begin your next set over and over again. This takes a lot of practice to get good at, and I recommend coming into this specific load zone, so Alpha Selectus, and just trying to make it from the platform that we were practicing on all the way to the Nessus Spire. And after enough practice, you can hit the point where you can make that fly pretty regularly. You'll be ready to infinite fly to just about anywhere in the game.